What are the most expensive films in cinema? You might think they are the ones with incredible special effects, stunning sets, renowned actors, and exciting stories. But did you know that some of these films cost so much money that they almost bankrupted the studios? Today, we are going to reveal which films spent the most money to reach the screens. And we will also discover the reasons why these films had such high budgets and what the results they achieved at the box office and with critics. One of DC's biggest productions was launched in 2016, and it sparked a wave of debates because of the scripts and actors' choices. But here's a secret: not everything is what it seems. Many say that the failure of Batman v Superman: The Origin of Justice was not the fault of the actors or the production team, but of the director. And look, there's more. Some point out that the studio was in such a hurry to build a cinematic universe to compete with Marvel that it ended up skipping some important steps, even with a gigantic budget of $263 million. That amount was spent mainly on special effects that involved the creation of the villain and fight scenes, which did not turn out as expected. The Star Wars saga film, titled Solo: A Star Wars Story, tells the story of a young Han Solo, but this time not played by Harrison Ford. The production of this film faced several challenges throughout the process. The original directors had to step away from the project before completing filming. Then Ron Howard took over directing, which led to major scenes from the film being reshot. This greatly increased the money spent, making it about $275 million more expensive than initially planned. Unfortunately, when the movie was released in cinemas, it didn't achieve the same success as the other Star Wars films. Due to the movie's failure, Lucasfilm stopped producing anthology films and shifted its focus to Disney Plus series. Like the previous film, Justice League was a case where a studio spent so much money due to extensive filming, making it one of the most expensive films in history, spending $300 million to form the DC team. Despite this, it was deemed a box office failure and ended up losing money for Warner Brothers. The reshoots were the studio's attempt to change direction following the negative reception of the previous film, Batman v Superman. The drastic cost correction angered many fans who knew that Justice League didn't represent director Zack Snyder's original vision. This led to years of demand for the legendary Snyder Cut, which was released in 2021 on HBO Max and became a streaming hit. Many people wonder how much money Warner Brothers could have saved if they had stuck with the version of Justice League that Snyder was making, don't you think? Constructing a decade-long story takes a lot of time and costs a lot of money, but Marvel managed an incredible feat, and this vast success began with the movie Avengers: Infinity War. Unlike previous films, Infinity War featured more Marvel characters than ever before, including the Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, and Thanos. Adding more actors means more money spent on above-the-line talent, inflating the budget to more than $300 million, reaching more precisely $316 million. Real ones were used in New York City, downtown Atlanta, and Scotland. Over $316 million is a small price to pay to become the first superhero film to gross over $2 billion worldwide. It's been more than 20 years, and Vin Diesel is still fighting to protect his family like Dominique and Toretto in the Fast and Furious saga. The 10th film in the franchise, called Fast and Furious X, has an estimated production cost of an incredible $340 million. The majority of this budget goes towards three main areas: locations around the world, live action scenes, and the salaries of the talent involved. To make Fast and Furious X an exciting adventure, they filmed in cities like Rome, London, Turin, Lisbon, and Los Angeles. One of the things that made these films special is that the action scenes are actually done in real life without special effects. This means that the cars, tanks, and helicopters we see on screen are real, which makes everything more exciting. However, the production of the film had some problems, mainly with the direction. Original director Justin Lamb left during a week of production in April 2022 following rumors and disagreements with Vin Diesel over the script and direction. Universal Studios had to pay a large sum, $1 million a day, to temporarily halt production until Lawrence took over as director in May. The expectation for Avengers Endgame, the film that would conclude the plot of the Infinity Saga, was enormous. Naturally, the numbers prove this. With a budget of $356 million, the film grossed almost $3 billion worldwide. To give you an idea, Avengers Endgame was so successful that it grossed $357 million in its opening weekend alone, surpassing the entire production budget of $1 million in just 3 days. Marvel Studios continues to move full steam ahead with its MCU projects, but only time will tell if they can pull off another cinematic event like Endgame. And you, what do you think? Considering its significance within the MCU and the number of actors involved in the productions, it's surprising to know that Infinity War and Endgame aren't the most expensive Avengers films. This title belongs to the second film in the saga, Avengers Age of Ultron, which is considered the worst of the 4 Avengers films. This is quite controversial, by the way. In the film, Ultron is a motion capture character, bringing the character to life through this advanced technology. Furthermore, his army consists of a swarm of CGI robots digitally created to form a large, coordinated group of enemies. Every final battle relies on visual effects as it takes place in the floating city of Sokovia. Unlike most Marvel films today, which are almost entirely filmed in one studio, Age of Ultron was filmed in multiple locations around the world, including South Korea, Italy, England, and New York. The film had a budget of $365 million, $9 million more than Avengers Endgame. For years, it was believed that the most expensive film of all time was Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, the only pirate film with a budget of almost $400 million. One of the reasons for the high cost was the star-studded cast. The film's production also chose expensive techniques, such as filming in 3D, which is more costly than normal filming. They also filmed in 4 different locations: Puerto Rico, California, Hawaii, and the United Kingdom, and even recorded scenes at sea, which ramped up costs. Another reason for the high cost was the creation of over 1,000 special visual effects, which are quite expensive to produce. Despite all these costs, the film was a huge success and fans loved it. It grossed more than $1 billion at the box office worldwide. In second place, on the list of the most expensive films in history, we have a highly successful film that grossed more than $1 billion worldwide, with a budget of $416 million. A portion of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker's production cost was due to the need to hire a new creative team after Colin Trevorrow left the project and the massive sets introduced by the production to wrap up the sequel trilogy. Although the film was the least grossing entry in the sequel trilogy, it still managed to hit $1 billion worldwide and was one of the last big hits prior to the pandemic. The most expensive film of all time comes from Lucasfilm 2015's Star Wars: The Force Awakens. In addition, Disney purchased Lucasfilm in 2012, and when Disney decided to produce the first Star Wars film after the purchase, they aimed for it to be a huge hit. Thus, they didn't cut corners on production. $447 million. Oh, and an interesting fact is that they tried to use more practical special effects instead of just computer graphics. This made a significant difference and significantly contributed to the film's success. The Force Awakens made in over $2 billion worldwide, marking it as one of the highest grossing films in history. Which of these films do you think was a wasteful spending of the budget?